Hello, you're welcome to Gist Arena. All we do is and gist. We discuss topical, trending, and exciting topics, and we have fun while at it. We invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy each thrilling moment of and gist.
Hello, everyone. My name is Adenike, or you can call me AMA. Welcome to Gist Arena, where all we do is gist, and gist. Yeah, I'm here today with my favorite gisters, of course. Of course, you know I'm the best gister. Don't mind Cynthia that claims that she's the best. But I'm here with my fellow gisters. We all gist to a certain... They try for their level, then they try. Cynthia... Drumroll, and Dr. Ayotunde. Drumroll. As is gradually becoming our custom, we have a guest with us again today. But before I reveal the identity of our guest, I'm going to tell you the topics we're going to be talking about. We're basically going to be talking about marriage, money, and property. So we are touching on three important aspects of this discussion. First and foremost, should a couple have a joint account? That's our first question. Then, when we're done analyzing that, we'll go on to talk about whether women should have property, e.g. houses and all, without their husband's knowledge as some form of security. And of course, we'll give some background to that when we get there. And the third question that we have for today's session is that, is it okay for a woman who earns more than her husband to hide some money in an undisclosed account? Of course, we'll give a bit of a background to that. So I'm going to reveal the identity of our guest now, and I'm going to then ask him the first question. Is a he? I've already given that away. Our guest today is none other than Dr. Enang. Dr. Enang, you are welcome. Dr. Enang is going to introduce himself, and then he will answer the question, after which Cynthia and Dr. Ayotunde would also weigh in on the first question, which is, should a couple have joint accounts? And if the answer is yes, how should they run? What's the best practice? How do you do that without it being the reason why a couple is having marital problems? So, Dr. Enang, please introduce yourself and go first. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Dr. Wisdom Enang, an operations engineering consultant within the Nigerian oil and gas space. I'm very grateful to the organizers, Denike, Cynthia, and Dr. Ayotunde for this wonderful occasion where I have to talk about a couple of topics. The first being, should couples have a joint account? So my reaction to that is that indeed, if you look at the pinnacle of a great marriage, trust is at the top of it, and that trust has to be proven. So whether it's in the actions or it's in the stewardship of the family dreams, it's got to be proven and earned in some way. And over time, one of those great ways is actually having a joint financial plan, which is, setting aside a bank account and making some financial commitments towards the future, like the children's school fees, or planning for some building project or some expansion project within the family, whether it's running a family business. And so you find out that there is checks and balances, there's value added from both couples when that happens. It doesn't really mean that they can't keep their separate accounts. It just means that there is this particular account where the vision of the family is being stewarded financially. And, in my experience, it's very much recognized even in the civilized world. For example, if you look at the UK, some of the acceptable, proof of a relationship between a husband and a wife is actually a joint account. So if you're going to Canada, for example, also you would have to, most certainly provide a proof of an account. Some of these are unwritten, but it's just a way of them having a feel for the depth of the relationship, amid the fact that people present a lot of papers and claim all sorts of relationships for different purposes. So I'm of the opinion that it's really, really important just for checks and balances to be established for both couples to run at least an account where they steward their dreams. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Adenike. You're also welcome, Cynthia. And of course, a special welcome to Dr. Enang. Thank you so much for taking our time to join us and gist with us today. We really appreciate that. Now to the question, should a couple have a joint account? My answer is yes. I absolutely believe that a couple should have a joint account because I believe in two becoming one. I believe that when two people come together to build a marital relationship, to build a home, to build a family, they need to do that in the true sense of the word, that they need to really come together and make, decisions together, make joint decisions. And that's not to say that they lose their individuality, but when it comes to the family, as it relates to issues that have to do with this family, this entity, that is a family, then they need to do things in one accord. And we all know that finance, plays a huge role, a very critical role for that matter, in the family, in building a family, in catering to the needs of a family. And that's why I believe that there has to be, this pause that is funded, by both parties, and this pause caters to the need of the family. And it's not, especially when, the two people involved are working. I believe that they need to have a joint pause, a joint account, where they can draw fund, from to cater to the family. Now, how they want to do that, the modalities, that they want to employ in getting that done is up to them, okay? Because like I always say, there are dynamics in every relationship, okay? Different dynamics. So how they want to do it, whether they want to have their separate accounts and then have this joint account, all right, or whether they want to put all their resources in a joint account, it's as it suits them. They would do what they need to do as it suits them. But then, should they have a joint account? I really believe so. I believe it is beneficial to the family at large. Thank you.
Thank you, Adenike, and welcome, Dr. Enan. Thanks for being amongst us here. Now, I think a couple can have a joint account, but it is not compulsory for them to have a joint account. I personally don't think having a joint account is the ultimate testament of their union or being together or being one, or all of that. They can, have a discussion and say, okay, fine, we're going to have a joint account, and they also can decide that I know we don't want to have a joint account. For me, what is important is the openness, is the trust. So I can definitely trust somebody who I know has good finances and takes care of the family, of the family affairs. However, if I'm with a partner that has precedence of not being financially prudent, maybe does not, maybe when the person gets his or her personal funds, for example, in this case, I'm a female, so I'm using the male gender. If he gets his finances and instead of, making commitment towards his financial responsibility, just doesn't do anything, ends up spending his money. For that person, it's absolutely necessary to have a joint account where a portion of your salary, agreed portion of your salary must come into the account. Likewise, myself as well, must come to the account. But if, for example, the person says, okay, I don't know, I don't really buy the idea of a joint account, and I know that the person is good with money, I mean, I can choose to say, okay, fine, no problem. That is me. That's my own opinion. Some other people think that's pretty necessary. However, now I think that even if you do decide to have a joint account, I think it's important that people still have their personal accounts, because I think it's still into all the individuality. Because I mean, for simple things like surprises, you want to do something, just want to surprise. If you have a joint account, how then do you take out money from the joint account to even organize a surprise without the person even getting to know, about it and everything? Now, in terms of the modality, it depends on the people involved, on how they want to do it. Should it be just although I said I think they should have they should still have the individual account. That's just my own opinion. I know of people that have like all of their, in fact, the account that is dropped with HR at their work is a joint account. So the salary comes directly to a joint account, and everybody's aware when they get their salaries. If you do have a joint account, I think it is absolutely important with that negotiation that the signatories should be the both of you. Nothing like or in your mandate for withdrawal. It must be and, which means both signatories must sign to it. Please don't ever make the mistake of signing or agreeing to a mandate that states either of you can sign to withdraw money. I think that is a recipe for failure. That is a recipe for a dying known. That is the recipe for ending in tears. Because basically one party can wake up, go to the bank and withdraw every single kobo that is there. Or maybe one day, they catch somebody cheating or something. The aggrieved party can go to the bank and get all of the money. I mean, I personally have heard this story of this kind of thing happening in the joint account setting. When somebody says that, oh, okay, we had a joint account and I was paying off maybe the person's debt or something. So they had like a direct mandate to take money from that particular account. And then something happened. I think the guy caught the girl cheating. And the girl was the one that was putting majority of our money into the account. And the guy majestically signed a check that, he wrote a check where he got all of the money out of the account, and the lady came and was crying foul. Of course, nothing can be done because he didn't do anything illegal. The account clearly stated that it was the signatures were it was a situation of all, which means he could either sign to withdraw money or she could either sign. So if you do choose to have a joint account, there is trust. I do agree, but there's also common sense in this situation. The common sense, please, is to do and except you are incapacitated. If you're in fact, even in the situation of incapacitation, it's better to get a close family to always sign your part. I know of somebody who is a quadriplegic, which means the person cannot use both legs and hands. And the person, since the person became like that through an accident when he was in teenage years, and since that time, his mom has been the one acting on his behalf. So she's been the one signing all of his documents. He recently got married, and the mom still signs on his behalf. So that's what I mean by even if you are incapacitated, yours might not be quadriplegia or anything of that nature. It could be any reason why you're incapacitated. I understand the place of trust. I do understand the place of trust. I'm just saying that understand the place. Let common sense as well also rule. Let common sense rule. So please have your best interest at first. Trust me, I get the idea of the union and togetherness and the trust. It is wonderful. It is sweet. It is good. But just let common sense rule. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for your beautiful comments and all of that. Dr. Enang, welcome. Wow. Operational. I missed the rest of it, but I'll send my CV. Thank you, sir. So thank you, Dr. Ayotunde. Thank you for Cynthia for your comments. Very, very insightful. So Dr. Enang and Dr. Ayotunde, I have a question for you. So if one of the spouses has broken trust with the joint account before, maybe, for example, Cynthia still gave an example of someone that went and cleared the whole thing and all of that. So that's in the case where it's either party to sign. Or let's say we've heard a story of someone that maybe his family member or her family member needed money, and the person, because he wasn't both to sign, or maybe the person was able to circumvent somehow, and the person went ahead and took money from the account, and basically the other party feels like their trust was betrayed with a joint account. How would you advise? Would you advise the other party to continue with the joint account? How would you advise the other party in that particular scenario? Then, Dr. Enang, you mentioned that a couple might need to use the joint account for their proof of funds when applying for the Canadian permanent residency. Some of us are jackpot-minded. We joke with that we want to run away. So please, can you elaborate on that? Thank you. Then this is a general question to everyone. Anyone that feels like answering can answer. What if one of the spouses wants a joint account and the other one doesn't want? How do they manage it in such a scenario? And Cynthia, what of the case where the man realizes that he's a spendthrift? You're like joint account, where for joint account you must make it both to sign or whatever. What if, let's say, the man realizes, I know it is a real life story where the man told me that he realized that his wife is a better manager of money than he is, and what he does is that just hands over all of his money to her, and she determines what he sends. What are your thoughts on that kind of arrangement where instead of it being either everything is even left in the hands of one spouse and the other spouse is willing? So it's not a case of that they were manipulated into doing it. So I'm listening. I'm looking forward to your comments. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening with me.
For the situation where one person wants a joint account and the other person doesn't want one, it boils down to communication. It boils down to understanding. Why does one party want a joint account? Why does the other person not want the joint account? So I'm just going to give I'm just going to go off on examples or scenarios. So if one party wants the joint account for some sort of stability, for some sort of assurance that their bills are going to be covered and everything. If he or she can safely communicate that to his or her partner, and the other person is aware of the reason, the person can choose to accept such explanation as one, and decide to shift ground and agree to the joint account. If the other party does not want the joint account because he or she feels like they are accountable and can always bring out the money from their personal account for a joint project or for the running of the home, and the person does not feel like it is necessary to have a joint account, in this case, the other party can choose to go on the hunch until when such person does not honor their word. So if somebody is supposed to sort of maybe contribute 5,000 naira each month towards the couple of things that the family needs for their effective running, and this month the person, without any reasonable explanation, does not drop the 5,000, at that point in time, then you can say no, let's do the joint account and all of that. But everything still boils down to communication and the reason why each party wants it. There's no other fast rule why you should have the joint account or why you should not have the joint account. Now to your second question to me regarding if like the example you give, that he says he prefers Israel, that's different. If somebody feels confident in the other party handling the finance, and there's really no, there might not be point for the joint account. I feel like one of the main reasons for the joint account is to ensure that there's sort of transparency, and if that transparency is there, kudos to the person that, the person you're referring to, that can admit that, okay, his wife is very good with managing money. That's fine. The important thing is that they're able to run their family, they're able to take on projects, whether small projects or large projects, and they're able to effectively manage their finances. They can do that without doing joint, and they're very honest and truthful to themselves. And there's some people that know that they are not prudent with money, and if they're supposed to manage the family's finance, it is. So if you are truthful to yourself and you know that your spouse is the one that's good with money, and you don't think there's any need for to have the joint account, no problem. In fact, some people, I know of some people that don't even like to know about the finance, like the finance of the family or whatever, whether joint account or single account. It's not really their business or problem, So so far as you're sure that your other partner has the best interest at heart, and the person has not slighted you before, then you can go ahead and do whatever. So if in the example you gave, it was the man that says that he trusts his wife completely. If it is the wife that trusts her husband completely, she can as well, allow that. I don't want you to point something that you directed to Dr. Enang, which is regarding the joint account for purpose of JAPA. They don't need to have a joint account for purpose of JAPA. As far as immigration is concerned, whether immigration or non-immigration category visas, if a husband has money in his account, he just needs to write a letter of consent for his wife, and they just write it to immigration that my wife has consent. She has consent to take out of this money and everything. That's fine. Likewise, the wife as well. If the money is in the wife's account, she just needs to write letter of consent for her husband. And then, so far as they are both, the persons are company, So if the two of them are doing the JAPA together, and then just one person's profile is there, what is called the primary applicant, and one person is the primary applicant. So far as you provide a letter of consent, the other party can use whatever money is in your name. Yeah, that's that.
Thank you, Adenike. Like I said before, there are different dynamics in relationships, so there's really nothing cast in stone here. And as much as I believe that a couple should have a joint account, I also understand the place of trust. If trust is broken, a partner is not under obligation to continue with the joint account arrangement if they want to opt out. Because honestly, joint account is not a do or die affair. It's not a by fire by force thing. Okay, so I just believe that it is beneficial to all the parties concerned, but then it's not compulsory. So if a partner feels that the other partner has broken trust as regards joint accounts, they can always opt out. It is allowed. Now, as to the situation where a partner wants a joint account and the other partner does not want a joint account, I believe that they would need to come together, to find a middle ground. Okay, they can always place the cards on the table, figure out the benefits, and then also look at the potential disadvantages, of having a joint account. And if the benefits far outweigh the potential disadvantages, for me, it's only reasonable that they go that way, or they toe that path. But then if, according to the dynamics of their relationship, they discover that a joint account won't even work for them, then, they can just always find other means of running the family. So it's not like it's a must for a couple to have a joint account, even though I will say a million yeses, to a joint account. And, I just quickly also want to mention something about what you said regarding the man that, would prefer his wife, or that prefers his wife to manage money. I actually really think it's a laudable thing to do, because by reason of, our mindset, our societal mindset, or the popular or the notorious male ego. A man generally would want to be the one in charge, of the finances at home. But then I actually think that a partnership is all about complementing each other. It's not a competition. So if one party is more frugal, okay, than the other, then the frugal one should be the one to take care of, the finances at home. It's, for me, beneficial in the long run for all of them. I'm all about the benefits. Do what, benefits this relationship. Do what benefits the family. Do what benefits the home. So if it's the man that is a better manager, let him handle the finances. If it's the woman, let her handle the finances. Because at the end of the day, you're working together, towards a common goal. You're pursuing the same goal, and you hope to achieve that goal, jointly. So do what will benefit everyone that is concerned. That's what I think. Thank you.
Hello, Adenike, Cynthia, and Ayotunde. Very wonderful and insightful contributions from various spectrums. Really kind of learned a lot from the different topical points that we have been talking about. Here is my, sort of stance on this. There is no hard answer to this question. There is no sort of right or wrong, because you see, just like we've discussed about, there are different scenarios that work for different situations and different couples. Now, here's what I'm going to say: adapt the method that works best for you. Now, if you have a situation that there is a trust issue, now maybe both of you have access to the funds and there's a trust issue, then I would personally advise that you get an independent savings where it's out of your reach. Maybe you're saving for a child's education, you're doing some kind of life assurance or something towards the education of that child, and it's executed by the third party. So all you do is to commit the funds. You don't have any right to touch those funds until the maturity of the project that you're actually envisaging. That's the way I would go about it, to be honest. Now, when you're looking at the question of visa, having a joint account for visa purposes, now it's just like a proof of relationship for example, for the Canadians. They are looking at a situation where they, are these couples genuine? Are they real? Is there some family value that they're going to transfer? And they have some criteria. As I said, they are not written out there, so you wouldn't even see that. But some of the justifications for refusals could be there is no proof of bond, like landed property in their name, like having a bank account, but this wasn't on the criteria. It just tells you that there's a generic criteria of proof of relationship. And of course, there are intricacies for which they accept as such proof. And one of such very important ones is the joint bank account. So that's something that we need to, really consider if you're applying outside the shores of this country. Now, if one couple wants a joint account and the other does not, then we really need to go to the granular level of looking at what's actually the intent of both couples. Is it that they have other plans for savings, for example, or they're actively pursuing investment? Because not all couples would want to go into savings. Some would want to go into investing their money into something active that could earn some money, although that's also risky, but it could earn some money. I personally am very, very savings adverse. I prefer to invest into something active that, I make some sort of calculated decision and take some calculated risk and grow the money. So it's just to understand what is what are the differences between the ideas of both couples and what are the commonalities. It may well come to a point where, okay, one of them is thinking a joint account would be and saving towards it would really take me well off my investment plans in terms of cash commitments. So, okay, let's do one, but let's reduce the amount of funding. Now, you have to also understand that the joint account issue is really fantastic when you have both couples have a good appreciation of money, for what it is. Now, when you have one that is working and then you have another one who isn't working, doesn't understand how hard it is to make money, is on the demand end of the curve, then it could be very, very difficult. Sometimes you have to take the autonomy of making those decisions that are rather, controversial, tough, but it's a necessary evil because you don't want to have someone thinking, oh, okay, he gets paid XYZ amount of money. It's always going to come. I could be on the demand curve and keep spending it off. There's too much that, sometimes when you study who your spouse is and you feel, okay, they don't understand and they don't have respect for how hard it is to earn this money, then of course running a private account but keeping them in the loop of what's going on is really important because, as I said, it all points down to the discipline. A lot of people do not have that discipline, and it is very difficult if you don't have a spouse with discipline for you to run a joint account. They just see the money. They don't see the sweat. They don't see the probability of even getting that money the next time after it's being spent. They just think, oh, it came in, it's going to keep coming in, and that's it. So it's all down to making some preliminary studies about who you're with, what works best, what are the necessary evils that's going to keep that marriage together, and most importantly, you want to find out, what is the ideal situation for both of you, and that differs from home to home. Now, if at any point the wife is a better manager than the man, I am a proponent of people playing in their area of strength. If there's any point that you feel there is more strength playing in a particular domain, whether you're the one that is going to be helping to operationalize the money and make sure that you can get some savings out of it, oh, that's perfectly fine. And I feel that should be the way everyone should play in their area of strength. We're not in a traditional area or era where people would say this is what is traditionally obtained and I'm going to take that role. No, it should be whoever is best suited for the role should take it. So I see no problems whatsoever, allowing a wife or a husband or whoever is better in managing money, taking that lead role. That's the way the family actually creates value and excellence for itself. And, I 100% support it. These things are essentially, whatever works for you. So just do the study. There is no template anyone can roll out and say this is what works universally. No, that's wrong. It would have to be a sort of a bespoke a template that is being adapted and applied for individual situations. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Dr. Tunde and Cynthia. Your answers are on point, on fleek, I would say. So it sounds like the consensus is that each couple should find what works best for the family. The joint account would be a good idea if they can make it work, but if they can't seem to find a way to make it work, it shouldn't be a deal breaker. That sounds like what I'm hearing. And I also picked out that each partner should use their strengths to the family's advantage, and each person should understand their strengths and not try to play in an area where their partner seems to have more strength. And that's, I think, a good counsel for couple, whether it's regarding money or anything else. And Dr. Enang, thanks for that point about getting a third party to manage the funds if trust had been broken before. That's a good one to consider, yeah. And it's also a nice point you made about investing as a couple as opposed to just saving. That's something I hope people pick up and do more of and normalize, as we say in social media parlance. Normalize investing as a couple. I think I'm going to put that on Twitter. Yeah. Okay, so this kind of leads me to my next question. My next question is about property ownership, which is a form of investment. But in this case, what are your thoughts? Maybe because of what her mother has told her, what her cousin has experienced, or what maybe she has even experienced. Maybe she has experienced that her husband may not exactly be the I don't know how to explain, but maybe she just feels like they are not financially compatible or whatever. What are your thoughts about a woman acquiring property without her husband's knowledge? Is that a yes or a no for you?
Before I answer yes or no, I'd like to say that I think it is wrong for people to go into relationships with preconceived notions or ideas about certain things, whether it's from their past experience or from knowledge that they have gathered about a particular subject matter, of what people generally say, about this particular subject matter. I think it is wrong to use that as a template or as the template, for their relationship, or to use it as the basis or the foundation of interaction with the person they're in a relationship with. I believe that they need to give that person an opportunity to prove himself or herself. At least you need to know how this person reacts in certain situations. You need to know how they are generally, their predisposition and all of that before you start thinking, okay, let me use this method or this means to protect myself, as the case may be. Or, you don't just go and act on preconceived notions about a particular person, because this person is different from, that other person that you had an experience with, or is different from someone else that, you heard their story. People are not the same. So don't, take preconceived ideas or notions into relationships and start acting on that. And having said that, I'd say that if a man, for instance, has not given a woman, any reason to doubt his loyalty to her, is sincerity, to her and to the family, if he has not given her any reason to believe that he does not have a best interest at heart, if he's good to her, is faithful, he's done everything he needs to do, has a partner in that relationship, is sincere, is trustworthy, is honest, then I'll say no to such acquisition of property, without the husband's knowledge. I say a big no to that. I think that is wrong. Because again, you are two people coming together to build a life. You should do things in one accord. I believe so much strongly in that. And if the man has not given you any reason to doubt, is loyalty to you, if he has not given you any reason to believe that he hasn't got your back, then why would you go behind him, to acquire properties or to do certain things without his knowledge? If the tables were turned, the woman would feel bad about that. So I think it is wrong. That would be a no. But then, if this man has shown to her, and even to the whole world, in some cases, that he does not have her interest at heart, if he's done things that, points to the fact that when or if push comes to shove, she's on her own, then yes, I would say yes to her acquiring properties or doing things, without his knowledge to protect herself, because she has to if he doesn't have a back, she needs to have her own back. So I would say yes to such if the man has shown, in every way and every respect that she's just, by this side. His main interest is probably in other things, and he has really not done anything to protect her or to really have her back. If those signs are there, then it's just reasonable for her to start, doing things to protect herself. That's what I think. Thank you.
Hello, Dr. Wisdom here. Very interesting point raised by Dr. Ayotunde. Welcome back, Cynthia and Adenike. Very, pleased to have you here. Just talking on the question whether or not it is proper for a woman to have a property outside her husband's knowledge. I'd just like to start off by saying, let's define a few things here. You either want your marriage to work or you don't want it to work. And marriage is a union and not a battlefield. So I would dare to say that those barriers will only threaten love, and love goes where it is least threatened. Let's just consider for a minute, as an aside, a physics theory, which I will use to describe, I will make my point or proceed my point better. Now, there were two arguments that came out of, a school of thought in physics. One was championed by Albert Einstein, and the other was championed by a German scientist, Heisenberg. And Albert Einstein was of the opinion that you could accurately predict everything in the world. So you could even know when things like the end time would be. He attempted to calculate this building on what Newton had done. But Heisenberg had a different position, which I totally agree with. He said that it is impossible to totally, pinpoint the velocity and the location of a particular object, in this case, matter. The reason is, if you're looking at observing, say, very minute particles, you have to understand the particular nature of light itself, that you're actually beaming some light onto the object to be able to observe it. Now, if that object is small enough, what would the light do? The light will displace the very particles you are trying to observe. So you are indeed observing the particles' reaction to the light, and in fact, not the actual behavior of those particles. Now, let's just bring that back to marriage. When you begin to incite ideas that looks like you're trying to put barriers in place, what you're just doing is expediting the reasons for those failures to occur. You are trying to activate everyone's selfishness, because we are all selfish as human beings. And once you start bringing ideas like, okay, I'm putting this in place just in case it happens, you are telling me I should put something in place as well. And when those two come into place, it becomes a toxic thing. So what you're observing is not two couples having a natural loving relationship. It's actually two couples reacting to what they perceive to be the threat in the family. Now, there's a different perspective to that. If you're looking at, okay, one of the couples have tried to raise the topic of, okay, let's get a property to, for ourselves. And, they can't just get around to agreeing on the timing, maybe because of commitment. And one of the other, the wife says, okay, let me try and save up, get it without his knowledge so we don't get into arguments of where the funds going to come from. But I will document all this and show it to him that it is for us. Now, that's a different situation. So couples do surprise each other. So it's not out of the question too. But it's all about the intent. What are you intending? Is it as a protection? Is it as a surprise? Is it just because you feel that, okay, it is best I handle it this way quietly? When it matures, I will show it to my couple. There are a lot of plans that couples come together, to plan. There are a lot of plans that you feel, well, this is too controversial that, in the sense of too many questions will come up and it will distract me completely. Let me just execute this, and then I've got the records to prove why I did it this way, and then of course the end will justify the means. But right off the bat, we have to consider what is the intent. And the worst intent would be you putting guards around something like love, because once it's threatened, it's gone. It doesn't just work that way. You either in a loving relationship or you're not. All those barriers are not going to build love. You're just trying to make yourself feel good, but that isn't going to solve the problem that you have a less loving relationship that you would have wished for. I think that's kind of where I'm leaning to on this topic. Thank you very much.
All right. So, as a general blanket statement, I would say that for just like the earlier just as I've said, that for the sake of family unity and togetherness of the family, it's not advisable for you to get a property without the consent of your husband. Since that's the question you asked, husband, and wife here. However, as far as I'm concerned, it plays to both genders. It could be husband wife or wife husband. It is interchangeable. But for the sake of this discussion, I'll leave it to the wife buying or getting property without the consent of her husband. And I'll play to what Dr. Enang said, which has to do with the intention. We really have to look at the intention behind why this action is being done. And I'm going to give a very good example. I mean, two of you are engineers here. And so because of personal experience and personal inclination, I'm aware of this kind of examples. So let's say, as the woman, you're an engineer and you are on a short-term contract. That pays a very good money. So you know that money is coming in. And you know that maybe if your contract is for a year, at the end of the year, your contract is over. And you might be out of a job for a while. Properties are a good way to lock down your money and let it appreciate. Because the properties appreciate. Let it appreciate, let your money make you money. And say you've spoken to your husband, like, this is what I intend to do. And Baba has kicked against it for whatever reason. For the sake of this discussion, I can say, maybe he says that maybe he hasn't gotten one. Why do you want to get one or none of that? And you know very well that if you don't lock down this money, when you stop working, you might find it difficult. And there's really no assurance or covering for you. Sis, please go ahead. At least you never want to say we haven't done that of his consent. You brought it up to him. He just did not agree. Please go ahead and lock down your own future. Go ahead and buy the property. Another scenario that I want to bring up is a situation where your husband has been buying property and he is putting just his own name on it. So he's putting just his name, and you brought it to his attention saying, babe, I thank God. I'm happy that you're able to get this, but I feel excluded. I feel like I'm not. This doesn't include me. You have two properties, and both properties are in your name, and you're this. There's no inclusion for me. There's no this. I would like to buy my own, and your husband just, is saying no. Whatever is mine is yours. As I've bought it and put my name there, you are by extension it covers for you. And this is the 21st century. We've seen situations where that doesn't work properly. Sis, buy that property and put your name on it. Buy that property and put your name on it. If God blesses you and you want to buy a second one, you can ensure good faith, put his own name as well on it. And if after that, he still go ahead and buys his own property and puts his own name on it. Hello, ma. Please, when you buy your next one, put just your name on it. You are getting to a stage where you need to look out for yourself. You need to look out for yourself. But, just like Dr. Yetunde said, if trust has not been broken, there's no precedence or foul play or anything. I don't think it's nice to buy property for yourself without the knowledge of your spouse. Please let them know. But as soon as you see that they are not welcoming of the idea, or they have an issue with it, and the issues that they're raising are not valid, please, I would advise you to go ahead and do what you have to do to secure yourself. Do what you have to do to secure yourself. What I would not condone is minusculating yourself just to cover up for somebody's emasculation. Minusculating yourself to cover up for somebody's for somebody's pride or for somebody's ego. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's nice. That's my own take. Now I wanted to ask a question. I recapped from Adenike's sort of summary of what Dr. Enang said, that he mentioned that if a spouse, if there's trust issues regarding money, that they can bring in a third party to sort of manage their finance for them. I believe that's what I heard, and that's a bit surprising to me, and I want some further clarifications and explanations regarding that. What do you mean by bringing a third party to manage your finance for you? I mean, I feel like that is one of the rudimentary stuff. If both of you cannot agree on how to financially run your own, in my opinion, what exactly are you doing? That is very rudimentary. So maybe you can enlighten me further on what you mean by that, and also what kind of third party would be brought into the mix that wouldn't even make the union look like three is a crowd. Like, what do you mean generally by that?
Hi, Cynthia. Thanks very much for your very insightful contributions. Learned quite a lot from that. Just to clarify, when I am talking about a third party coming in to administer the funds and what the role is for the couples. Now, we need to understand or contextualize the problem. The problem of joint account is rarely at the saving stage, but rather it's more typical at the execution stage, where there's concerns about the sanctity of intended execution. And this is where the third party comes in. So effectively, this third party could be in form of a mortgage bank, if you're looking at purchasing a property, or an insurance firm, for example, if you're looking at a child education plan. And so you make certain contributions towards a pre-agreed project, and you know that those funds, because they've been paid into a third party and you signed up for that project, there's no fear of misappropriation of funds. Neither is there any fear that there will be default on the sanctity of that agreement. So the third party in this context just brings in that sanctity factor to make both couples aware that we have committed these funds. There is no going back on the plan, and there is no form of any other priority that is going to mean that we are not able to meet our commitments. So it's not that the third party there is going to manage their money for them. No, it's just that you've agreed on a project and you both don't trust your discipline. And this is just about being completely honest to yourself, right? There's no need to fool yourselves as couples. If you know your discipline isn't that strong and you can't hold yourself from dipping into a purse and spending money, or you can't help feel bad when you've asked your spouse, oh, we need to dip money on this reason, and your spouse doesn't agree with you, and so he's not willing to sign for a joint account for you to withdraw that money, then the best way is to put it with a third party, because you do know that there is no chance of compromise from the third party. He won't release those funds for you no matter what you say and how much you need it. But there's a chance of compromise if it's just between both of you and one or either of you are not disciplined. So there's that chance that one will feel, okay, if I mount enough pressure, he would bulge or she would bulge and give me what I want. But that may not be the best answer for the couples. It may well be that there will be no better chance to execute the project you were actually planning. So once you have that discipline problem, the third party comes in very handy. And I have to say that yes, it's not as commonly practiced in Nigeria here, and I understand where there could be some reservations from different school of thoughts. But abroad, this is very common. There are third parties with products where you pay over time, and that commitment already allows you to have a very laser focus on what the project is that you're trying to execute, and so there will be no chance of turning back on that plan. Thank you. I hope I've been able to put some more light on those points, so you understand the context within which I'm using third party in the financial plan of couples. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Enang, for this clarification. I wasn't even looking at it more in the sense of big purchases, but I do understand exactly what you mean. And definitely I understand why the third party would come in when it comes to the execution, like you said. I really, really understand that. Now, what of in the situation that I mentioned earlier? I know people whose salaries, just their monthly income, goes into their joint account, so the execution I'll be referring to here would be for not small item, but then for the day-to-day, the month-to-month, the day-to-day, and the week-to-week running of the family. How would you, if they cannot agree on how this fund should be disbursed, how do you think they can overcome this or conquer this? So just to give more clarity, let's assume that let's say the husband makes 150,000 naira per month, and then the wife makes, say, the same 150,000 naira per month. So 300,000 naira goes into their joint account every month, assuming that both of their money is going to their account every month. And then let's say the wife has said, to run this family every single month, we would need 100,000 naira, and the wife is saying, and the husband is saying that, that's too much, can't you go down? And then they find themselves at loggerheads, like every month in, and then it's just looking like this joint account is not working. What would you advise them to do in this scenario? I guess this was the kind of scenario that I was thinking of when I was saying that when they have a problem with how to execute when they do have the joint account. This was what I was thinking. So when you then said when they're going to bring a third party, and I was wondering how they're going to bring a third party into such domestic situation. But I do understand, what you're saying when it comes to the big purchases. But what can you say regarding how they can overcome this domestic issue, so to say? Thank you.
Hi, Cynthia. Thanks very much for the additional insight and clarifications, and also the question which you've asked, which is going to really help to delve into this topic, much better and clearer. Now, when it comes to operational execution in a family, I would like to say that the family is not absolved of its economic planning and prioritization. So, which is really important to make a very informed and objective decision at the family level. A joint account is a solution facilitator, not the solution. So the solution is making sure you're using your money, on the right projects that brings maximum value for that money. Now, a couple, should really apply a scaled form of economics in their homes. It shouldn't just be an academic thing. Stuff like financial projections. What sort of earnings are you expecting to come in over the next 12 months or 24 months, depending on your time, horizon? Scale of preference, and, looking at what are those options that you wish to go for, and how do you rank them on how important they are to the family. Looking at opportunity cost, really, if you're getting this, is this worth the opportunity of not getting the other item? What is the real cost of what you're going to get, and what is the foregone alternative? Once you put your needs of the family in this bucket, then of course it becomes very easy and clear to make an objective decision. I always say to people that it's harder to argue with figures and economic fundamentals than it is to argue with an idea based on intuition. So to solve the problem, I would crave the indulgence of the couples to lean more on articulating their arguments and preferences using economic fundamentals, not just feelings and emotions or I know better, I'm a woman, I'm the one that's running that knows better. No, those arguments don't hold water. They don't make any sense to me. If anyone came to me with such an argument, I'm like, it's too weak. You got to tie it to a fundamental. You've got to let me understand your point using numbers. Let the data and the facts speak for itself. You don't need to be defending data if it's clear enough. There's only, it becomes suspicious where you're trying so hard to defend a point and there is no objectivity to that defense. And, so as I said, the mistake, and this cuts across a lot of families, that couples do is not to employ an intentionally strategic approach to running their family. There's no intentional, it's just like a freelance, whatever I feel like, whatever I think should be put forward because I prefer it. And this is something we inherited from from the way families have been run in Nigeria and Africa in the immediate past. It's just whatever gut feeling comes, and in some cases it's whatever the man says that works. But there needs to be some objectivity where ideas are really subjected to, and only the best ideas come up, because at the end of the day that's what we want. So I would like to end by saying that marriage or family, will thrive least where you put it on a free dive mode. You really need an intentional directional guidance to doing even the least project. So you can come up knowing that with the best resources, with the best of what you knew and the factors under your control, you took the decision that was well optimized for your, the money you have. Remember, if you're looking at money loses value over time. So you need to really understand, especially for Naira, you need to really understand, are you using what is the value of that money that I'm using for what is the proposed value for the future based on what I'm doing, and what does it mean for the family? It's always harder to argue with numbers, facts, and data. Thank you very much.
Very, 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 very interesting convo so far. Thank you all, Dr. Wisdom, Dr. Ayotunde, Cynthia. It's been a very, very long day, if I would say, but very insightful discussions all the way. So I'll ask questions based on your answers first before I introduce our final topic, which may be sounding a bit redundant, but we'll still confirm if you have any pattern thoughts on that. So Dr. Ayotunde, Dr. Wisdom, it seems like you're like, what I'm hearing from everyone, Dr. Ayotunde, Dr. Wisdom, Cynthia, everyone, is that trust your spouse until they give you a reason not to trust them. But we heard the story of this lady who basically assumed and trusted that her husband was the best. And, the story we had was that she practically funded the property that they have. Most of the money came from her because she was working outside the country. And then she's like in her 50s, nearing her 60s now, getting ready to retire and come back home. And she's now having to contend with a side chick who has more or less come to take residence in her house. So in such a case, do you feel like she could have done something differently? Because in this particular case, her name is even on the property, but she's still having to deal with a side chick and going to police station because the side chick has refused to move out, because in the side chick's mind, the house belongs to the man that she has taken over. I can't remember the name of the lady, but we talked about, we gisted about that in Gist Arena recently, the WhatsApp group, and we talked about, I can't remember her name, but that story of the woman that now has to be dealing with a side chick on a property that has her name. Do you think that stories like that kind of lends credence to the people that are like, well, let me just have my property and make sure it's out of the reach of this man? Because in most cases, it's usually the men that would bring in another woman and she will be contending with you for what you practically built. I personally haven't heard a case of a side dude coming to drag property with the husband of the lady he's dating. Well, what do you think about scenarios where after you've put in all of the trust and all, the woman now has to be contending with another person showing up to come and contend with her on the property that she invested most of the money? I'd like you to talk to this. I also love to hear what our listeners have to say about this particular issue. Dr. Wisdom, thank you for the physics lesson that you gave us with Einstein and the other guy. I can't remember his name. But I wonder what Einstein was really smoking when he decided that he wants to calculate the day of rapture. It is well. I'm sure he has messed with his maker now. They would have settled the matter. So one thing Cynthia said that I would like to reiterate is that in all that you have to do, in property ownership, etc., don't hurt yourself. Well, if you use the word minisculate yourself to massage someone else's ego. That's a quotable quote, Cynthia. I hope you tweet it so that I can retweet. And I liked what Cynthia said about for example, if you have a case where someone is a contractor, so the money she gets or he gets is not constant money. So you get some bulk money and you decide that you want to put it into property and your spouse is not really feeling you. I also think, well, I would like to hear from the audience. What do you think in such a case? So the woman knows that the money she's going to get from the money she got here, if she keeps it, she's going to spend it, and it will just be like, my people will say, Boshe Lolo Shebo, BLLB, which means that eventually there's no net change because the money you have spent it on something that you cannot see. So she's thinking that, let me put this money in something of value. And the man is saying no. Let's use the money to take care of the house. And she feels like it's going to be a BLLB situation. What do you think the woman should do? Audience, please get back to us. You can speak to us on Instagram at GistArenaA. GistArenaA on Instagram. Please click the like button and turn on notifications so you know when we are online. I would love to hear from you, to your comments. Yeah. So the other thing that I think I picked from what I think it was Dr. Wisdom that said something about being honest about your strengths and weaknesses, because they kind of help you. I like to just do a recap, so I know I learned something from this discussion. And then Dr. Enang also gave me another quotable quote. It says, a joint account is a solution facilitator and not the solution. Dr. Enang, they did not dash you this, your PhD. You earned it. Another quotable quote from him again. It says, it's harder to argue with figures than with sentiments. Oh, thank you, sir. And then be strategic with running your family. There needs to be some objectivity. You need to be intentional. See me taking notes as if I'm in class. Thank you, people. You people, I see the reason why we have 2 doctors in this particular broadcast. I've been writing. I've been in school. Thank you. So let me move on to my final question, which is more or less, I think you all have answered it, but let it not be said that let's be able to tick it that we've done this topic or this subtopic. So the question is it okay for a woman who earns more than her husband to hide some money in an undisclosed account for peace sake? So, she knows the kind of husband she's married to. She knows he's a spendthrift. Any money he sees, the money must finish. I know people like that if at the same time it takes them to spend 10 million, is the time it takes them to spend 1 million. And it's not gender specific. It's just that this question came in asking for a woman in a woman's case. But generally, is it good for, if you know your spouse is a spendthrift, that money, once they know you have money, the money must finish before they leave you? What do you think about getting an account where you don't tell, they don't, so that they are not aware, so you will have peace? You can tell someone else so that later, in case anything happens, but just for peace sake, is it okay for you to have that kind of account where you just keep the money? Or like Dr. Henang has kind of thrown some light on, maybe in this case you just have some investment vehicle that you go and put the money. Sometimes when I hear some stories of some women saying that the men are asking them that you should give the man all the money you earn, etc. I've seen some people counsel such women that get a standing order into some investment vehicle, so that immediately your money is coming into your account, the standing order is taking the money out, so that it immediately goes into that vehicle, so that it's not even accessible to the person that wants to take it. What are your thoughts on those types of solutions to spouses that are spendthrift and they want to make your life difficult because they know you have money and all that? What would you say?
Let me start with a prayer. Baba God, I beg, make bring unfortunate human being to our domot, or carry unfortunate human being comot from our domot or something like that. Okay, because honestly, I believe that if one is dealing with a reasonable human being, then most of these issues will not even rear their heads in the first place. And I also want to say that I've learned a lot, in the course of this discussion. I really I'm thankful that Dr. Enang, could really spare time to come gist with us. His last response to Cynthia, I summarized that as logic, objectivity, and two people with common sense. That's how I just summarized everything he said. And I think that it's important for people in relationships to actually really, like he said, be truthful to themselves. Stop being sentimental about things. Be objective, be rational, bring in, some logical arguments, some logical, explanations. Don't just, expect that, okay, your spouse will do this, or this is how you just want, your home to run, or this is how it has to be, simply, because that's how you feel about it. So I want to believe that in the examples that have been cited, like the one Cynthia cited, if you have a partner that is logical, that is reasonable, when the lady, for instance, explains that, oh, this is why I want to put this, in property or in an investment, because I'm a contract worker. I have this, money now. It's, it's bulk money, and I just feel like we should put this, in some type of investment so that it will yield instead of just spending it, because we don't know, or I don't know when I will have something like this, again, because of the nature of my work. Okay, I feel that a reasonable partner should be able to understand that and, allow such, instead of thinking that, no, it has to be what I want to do, or just, be unreasonable. At the end of the day, it's all about reasoning together. I said earlier that I'm all about, the benefits. You have to sit down and, be logical, be rational, and think about, what will be beneficial. That is what you should do. It does not, have anything to do with your sentiments or your emotions or how you feel. It's more about, being objective and doing what, will benefit everyone at the end of the day. Now, with regards to Adenike's question about a woman putting money aside, without the husband's knowledge. Again, it still boils down to the dynamics in the relationship. You said that probably the woman, knows that the husband is a spendthrift, and once he sees money, the money must just, he must blow it. I mean, in a situation like that, again, it is only logical and rational that, well, since you have a partner that, is kalu kalu, the person just spends money, anyhow, as soon as the money comes, the money is being swallowed by whatever. Is it not wise to, put money, away, to save, so that, when the rainy days come, you have something to fall back on. Again, it has to do with intent. Cynthia mentioned intent, okay, or your intent, or the intention behind what you're doing. So if the woman is putting the money away because she knows that her husband is somebody that will spend the money, he just has a way, when he sees money like this, needs will just appear from anywhere, and we just want to spend the money. If she's keeping money away because of that, so that when the need really arises, they will have something to fall back on, then that makes sense to me. But if she's just well, I'm the one that is making more money, and so I can't put all my money down. I will only put a portion, down, and then blah, blah, and all of that. If that's the intention, or if that's the intent behind that action, then for me, it's it gets as a B, because I think that's not, again, I always want to turn tables. So put yourself in, your husband's shoes, and if he has money and then he's keeping money away for himself now, so that means it's just about that individual. You don't have, the spouse does not have anything to do with the money. He's doing it for himself. If your husband is doing that for himself, would you like it? Would you like it that he's keeping money for himself, and then that money, you have nothing to do about it, and then you are putting your whole on the table? You won't like it. A woman will not like that. So why would that woman do something like that? Because she's the one bringing more money. So if that's the reason behind what she's doing, then that's a no for me. But if it's to save money, so that Ogbeni does not spend everything, everything is easy, it doesn't just swallow everything like that, then that makes sense. But all in all, like we have all said, there are no hard and fast rules here. So it's still all about the different dynamics in different relationships. So every couple will need to, again, logically and rationally decide what works for them and what is beneficial, to the entire family. Thank you.
Just like Doc said, maybe not be yoked with somebody whose union with them would just make our life not go smoothly. With the particular story you're referring to, which is the woman that worked all her life abroad and then was sending money home to her husband to sort of furnish their build and furnish her property here, and then she came and she found a side chick. I think if you earlier in the story, it was established that the man was a philandering person, so he used to sleep around. There were girls around and all of that. And in this situation, this particular side chick was just bold and wanted to debating. Basically in English, meaning this particular person wanted to sit down with something that is not even hers, like that is not her own property, and she thought she could make it her own home. Now, with the thing we've been saying from the onset, which is trust. Once you realize that trust has been broken, you should look out for yourself, you know, before any other person. In this situation where we said the man he was a wanderer, already trust is broken. When you're on that, when your partner's undying love is not just for you, he's sharing it, you know, it's not like palliative. Everybody, you get one, you get one, you get one. You need to start thinking of yourself. I think in this situation, maybe as soon as she knew it was a she knew that the man was, you know, would always carry girls. Even in one of the videos she did, she mentioned that he used to carry girls and all of that. I feel like at that point in time, she shouldn't have been sending money home to him, or even if she did, she should have come back earlier than when she did come back. But even at that, you know, irrespective of what has happened, I mean, she did the right thing in terms of securing herself, like putting a correct names on documents and all of that. And that might be because she's a lawyer and, you know, is aware of how important that is, and that helped her. Even when she came and then the husband and his mistress took her to the police station to try to make a case, nothing could be done because clearly it's her property. You can't kick her out for any reason. You know, her name is clearly on the document, and I'm sure she also has evidence of all the things she sent home and all of that. And you see the video she made. She said that she was going to even also collect her car as well, which she sent him money to buy. So all of this just points to the fact that she knew clearly what she was doing. So we're saying that even you need put your name on things, even if you realize that the person that is, even before you're able to establish that the person you are dealing with is a Lori Brook, or you know, so it or does not make does not have brain, or does not have does not make sense. So even in that situation, she was still covered. So we're saying that if you do the right thing, even when there's trouble, it can only last as far as it can. You will still definitely win. So you will set yourself up to win. That's what we're saying. Now for the second situation, which is what was that again? Let me try and remember. I'll just say right away. Okay, where you know that your the partner you're with, the guy, your husband is Oloju Wonko wants to ensure that until when all of that money finishes, you know, his mind is not going to be at rest. He so basically wants to suck you dry. Sis, 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 take care of yourself first. Take care of yourself first. Put yourself first. Hide that money from him. Keep that money away from him. There's no long talk about that one. Keep that money away from him. You know, put yourself first. That's even very well justified. You need to start looking out for yourself. Again, once the trust is broken, you need to put yourself first.
Hi, Cynthia. Hi, Ayotunde. Hi, Adenike. It's really, really been a wonderful time, I must say, having a lovely chat with you ladies. I've learned quite a lot, highly phenomenal and value added. And I must say, this is the best gisting opportunity I've ever had. And, you know, it's so much impacting and, you know, very power packed. Thank you very much. I totally enjoyed it. Just speaking on the, you know, situation or the scenario where, you know, the lady was living abroad, sweated it out there in, you know, 50s or 60s, and you know, she's sending money back home for projects, and her husband is misappropriating those funds with you know, a side chick or ladies or whatever, you know, he's doing. I simply would like to redefine the problem there. To be honest, I almost want to question what is the fundamental foundation of that marriage. I say this with reasons because a lot of marriages are put together for so many reasons, some of which, you know, are very controversial, but we see it happen. It could be because of age, because of children, because of economic considerations. It could even be because the, you know, the lady is working abroad or has some opportunity abroad, and the man says, "Okay, let's tie this thing together, even when I don't really feel
that connection to you. So I almost like to look at it for that way because it contextualizes the solution that I get and ultimately allows me to take some real good lessons. Now, and this scenario really goes to, to justify my school of thought and my stance against long distance relationship and marriages that, is becoming kind of the order of the day. I personally posit that, there must be a conscious effort and that willingness to trade off between, family ties, of course, and the bond that keeps you guys together, and economic prosperity. And I'll explain what that means. That simply means that, you don't want to be on extreme side of the spectrums, really, because that's not going to be beneficial and that wouldn't be balanced. If you want to wake up and say, hey, as I wake up today, it's family, 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 I'm not doing anything, then of course financially you become a liability to that family. If you wake up to say, oh, economic prosperity is my job or nothing else in the planet, then of course your family is going to turn apart. So you want to establish what's that midpoint balance. Where does the center of gravity balance between this and that? And that's really it. I personally, no matter how much, and I'm talking from a personal standpoint, because I've had at least 3 job offers internationally, and I've declined them because there was that moment where I wouldn't be with my family. Sometimes they will say it would just be for 1 year and then you can bring your family. And I said, no, a lot can happen within a year. So there's got to be that conscious effort. You can't, make decisions that are leading to different answers and expect, an answer that's completely different from the plausible options that you were looking at. It's not, just doesn't work that way. So, for me, this case, what will I advise the woman? If she's been in this kind of situation, yes, the mistake has been done, yes, it's not, but I would rather you just put, mitigative actions in place to save yourself. You've tried. You've done some of, you've done the right things by making sure that you send money home. You kept in touch with the family. You're adding to the growth of the family and the prosperity of the family. And the man is deciding otherwise. You just can't allow someone derail your vision. It's got to be intentional that you put those steps, mitigative steps in place to avoid things going even worse. But this is an unfortunate outlier case, and I really dare to say, it's not something I'm going to, really, take on board as a ring fencing basis for, my marriage, or certainly advise anyone to, because this is just an unfortunate situation. You don't want to be using unfortunate situations as the benchmark for how marriages should be and what we should put in place should things, just go south. This is as south as it can get, The next question, just picking on the next question, for a woman that earns more than her husband, is it okay to hide money aside, outside the knowledge of her husband? I'm going to start out by saying that it all goes back to what the intent of that is. Are you trying to hide it because it's much easier than explaining? I'll give you a practical, example. In our offices, we have Osusu. And some people even commit their salary in an Osusu ahead of even getting their partners to know what they earn. So I have that in my office. People say, oh, I'm committing 200,000 to monthly Osusu contributions. So that I want to use it for this project. So to be honest, if that intent is good, that's fair and square. Let me, just do an aside and establish, a proverb that I'll build on for the rest of the discussion. An African proverb says that a child carried at the back never understands the pain of the journey. Now, this is very true. You and I are working so hard, we sweat for every 1,000 naira that we have, but there are, family members that feel so entitled and they don't understand what we go through, so they just feel it should come. And you and I have had to put up mitigative, measures to make sure that we're not just working for other people. And at the end, there's nothing to show for it. We've had to educate them. We've had to make sure that there's an exchange of value for money. What value are you bringing on board for yourself? Maybe not for me, but for this naira that I'm spending. And we should transfer the same to our husband, to our spouses. In this case, to our husband. If the husband is less financially smart as her, because of course, if she's the one working, making this money, she may even have financial exposure more than the man. And that's the fact. She needs to lend it to the man and show him how to make an objective and informed financial decision. And then also she needs to obviously take as a transition plan, put in mitigative actions, whether it's putting the money somewhere, but the intent has to be clear. That is not trying to be, individualistic or selfish, but it's for the overall good of the family. And that's kind of where I sit on this one. So it's very normal, where you have arguments with your spouse about what is priority, and it comes back to who's earning this money. So the kind of litmus test I like to put forward is, look, what is the intent? Is it good? What are the previous intervention attempts that you've made? Have you made enough? Have you what have you done to sort of advise or educate your partner on the need for you to put some money away for intervention projects or whatever projects you want to do? Then the last thing is, when things go tough or south, who has the rescue responsibility? I'll give you a very typical example where this comes to play. If I'm taking a decision about usage of funds, and ultimately I'm responsible for the emergency responsiveness in that family, then of course you could understand that, well, he's got his hands wrapped around it. It's ultimately the person who puts this bill, so it's okay, let's go with it. But let's switch it around. If I have a spouse that is not responsible for the emergency, like when things go south, and she's trying to make a decision as to how funds are going to be spent, and I think I have a different idea, I will put this forward and say, hey, I've got a different idea about this because of XYZ scenarios, which of course will factor in the emergency scenario. So once you establish those three litmus tests: intent, what are the intervention efforts you've done previously, and what is the emergency responsiveness if things go south, who actually takes the blame? Once the answer points to you, in this case the lady, then it's common sense that if I am going to take if I'm going to be responsible for any emergency that comes up, I need to source the fund. It's only fair and common sense that I am also responsible for execution of those funds and the decision that has to do with those funds, because it's almost like it's a responsibility that I'm taking on board to say, whatever you do, I'm ready to take that responsibility if things go south. So in this case, if that's the case, she has the right, because I'll tell you something, when it comes to financial stewardship, typically the person that is earning the money and bringing it home actually has that more, because it's normal. The more, due to our adaptive nature as human beings, the more you work and first financial, go through hurdles, you learn. The more you work, you get to understand more value, and spend money and plan your expenditures. You get to understand the value of money concept. That is a lot, that is something that it's sacrosanct. So it's almost certain that you would have a better financial drive than your partner. So in that case, I really, would welcome her to take intentional steps, put it into contributions, investment vehicles, as long as the interest is non-debatable. There's no ambiguity in what your intents are. So I'm going to leave this with some parting words, just to say, do your best to make the family work out. All the scenarios that have been discussed are sort of worst case. There aren't scenarios that we pray for. Do your groundwork before you get into a marriage, because once you're locked in and you start seeing all the devils come out with their horns, it's a harder problem to deal with, considering that there is a child probably in the equation, and that's really a tough time to, and a tough situation to deal with. So my advice would be, do all your homework before you get into a marriage. Make sure that love leads the way. You can't put mitigative actions in place from an individualistic standpoint and expect love to flourish. It just doesn't work that way. You're heading in the wrong direction and hope to come out in the right direction. It doesn't work that way. So let's just establish what are the norms for a good marriage, build on it, reference God, bring God into it, and let it work out. No matter what you do, no matter how smart you are, if God doesn't direct that marriage, it won't work. So God has to be in it, but we have to do all we can to practically make it work. It's been a lovely conversation, and certainly I'll be looking forward to another wonderful episode. Thank you so much, and God bless everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Wisdom. Thank you, Dr. Ayotunde. Thank you, Cynthia, for your answers. It's been a very, very interesting, though long session. Our audience, I would love to hear from you. Our listeners will love to hear from you. If you have any contributions, any comments, any agreements, disagreements, any stories to gist us about this interesting issue about finances and marriage, we would really love to hear from you. And this is Adenike, also known as AMA, signing off for today. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your week. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of Gist Arena. We hope you enjoyed the topic discussed. Please drop your comments and let us know what you think about it. We'll definitely love to hear from you. Until next time, bye!